to continue to have access to hard dollars, continue to have access to the capital that is funding groups like Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad.
Do you support infanticide, killing a child after he's born?
I do not agree with the basis of that question,
What's
but
the
I
basis?
do believe that abortion is health care.
Okay, so I'll take that as a yes, you do agree with infanticide.
What I think is, based on your question, you have a very low opinion of pregnant people. Because if you think
No,
that anybody would carry...
answer the question.
Excuse me.
Answer the question.
I'm answering it. Do you
No,
want
you're not.
You want
I
to
will
answer,
take it
or
that
you
you
want to keep
agree.
talking over witnesses?
I take it with all those words, you do agree with basically murdering a child after they're born. Miss Graves, could you answer that? Would you just, yes or no?
I have to say, Congressman, how you just characterize the representative statement is extremely inflammatory and the type of thing that it's dangerous.
The priorities of this administration are to make America weak. The priorities of this administration is to promote, instead of our military to keep us safe, to promote priorities such as transgender surgeries, climate dollars that go to their friends and their allies on their side of the aisle. Invasion at the border. We've got out-of-control crime. We have out-of-control gas prices, from eggs to construction lumber to everything else in this country. No reductions at all.
You talk about dangerous. Alabama has a murder rate 3 times New York City. Texas is 50% higher. An unstable world? Well, unstable because a Republican minority has refused to be able to support our valiant allies in Ukraine that are fighting for our freedom and their lives. And it's still hung up. I find that appalling and embarrassing. And you should too. Dreaming up non-existing facts, denying reality, and catering to the most extreme members of your congressional folks isn't helping us. It's dividing us, it's making us weaker, and it doesn't have to be that way.
This administration has no desire to end the immigration. They want it for 2 things: power, and change the censuses of the states that transport them all over this country. It's an abomination, and the support by a meaningful new president who will stop the border and will close it down.
I kind of feel like I'm in an episode of The Twilight Zone. I can't figure these guys out. Bottom line is that I hear they want to be tough on the border, and every time we've tried to be tough on border security, pass a tough border security bill, they say no. And what we have here is a non-binding resolution that does nothing, doesn't even go to the Senate, can never become law. It is nothing. It is just a press release. And what they turned down was $440 million for more judges to accelerate the asylum claim. So we're not waiting years. We can do this in weeks and months. $23 million to destruct Mexican cartels. They said no to that. $6.7 billion for customs and border protection. Said no to that. 50,000 ICE detention beds. They said no to that. $4 billion for USCIS. Said no to that. And why? Because the former President of the United States called up and said, I want the issue. The former President of the United States, by the way, who says that immigrants poison the blood of our country. The former President of the United States, and I'd like to insert this article in the record, Mr. Speaker, as unanimous consent. This is from Salon, and quote, the title is, he said Hitler did some good things. Ex-Chief of Staff says Trump praised Hitler in White House. Let that sink in. I reserve my time.
Where's the guts on your side? You've got a president, Joe Biden, who's cognitively gone. Why don't you get with his handlers, whoever it is? Now, you can argue if you think he's not cognitively gone, I would wager a good bit of money. You give him with 5 doctors, they would tell you the man's not there. Now, that's what America's concerned about. That's what America wants.
Would the gentleman yield?
Let me just finish. Those are the concerns, and I get the theater to try to divert this to the things you mentioned about the hearings and how you think. The real concerns affecting the pocketbooks of Americans, and you're going to see it I hear it. I'm in that world of construction workers. And they're sick and tired of what this administration is doing to sell this country out. And they're going to they will let their feelings known. Now, you can disagree with that, but, and I will yield just a few minutes. I want to get to Guy, but I yield back, yield to you.
I do disagree vehemently with what you've said. Have you spent any time with Mr. Biden, with the president?
Good God,
Did you go?
no. Lord.
Good God, no. No, you've been watching a little too much Fox News.
Not Fox. Watch him on Fox, if he'll go there. Watch him on the few, how many press conferences does he have? What can he get off teleprompter and read? You tell me.
I have spent hours with the president without teleprompters, and the level of his conversation is way above this committee right now.
I assume you agree with infanticide, the killing of a child, a perfectly healthy child at birth?
I don't accept the basis of that question, but
Pardon me?
I do believe abortion is health care.
I'm talking about, do you agree? I know, I get that, but do you agree, I mean, do you support infanticide, killing a child after he's born?
I do not agree with the basis of that question,
What's
but
the
I
basis?
do believe that abortion is health care.
Okay, so I'll take that as a yes, you do agree with infanticide. Mrs. Shannon, do you agree with infanticide?
Well, I think you're using inflammatory language to basically describe a situation that does not happen. We don't have infanticide happening. Doctors would not do that, and neither would folks who have carried pregnancies.
Okay, would a healthy
and
child,
later-
do you agree if a healthy child is born, that it's that woman's right to decide if it lives or dies?
What I think is, based on your question, you have a very low opinion of pregnant people. Because if you think
No,
that anybody would carry...
answer the question.
Excuse me.
Answer the question.
I'm answering it. Do you
No, you're
want to...
not.
You want
I
to
will
answer,
take it
or
that
you
you
want to keep
agree.
talking over witnesses? What I'm telling
no.
you is nobody would carry a pregnancy and then decide on a Monday because they are bored that they want to have an abortion. That's ridiculous. And it's inflammatory, what you're saying. You're talking about families who are in tough situations where folks have been excited about carrying a pregnancy. Most of the abortions that happen later in pregnancy are really tragedies where it's really a disappointment for everyone involved.
But you agree with, I take it with all those words, you do agree with basically murdering a child after they're born. Miss Graves, could you answer that? Would you just, yes or no?
I have to say, Congressman, how you just characterize the representative statement is extremely inflammatory and the type of thing that it's dangerous.
And what she's
You guys
saying-
have been talking today about the threats against crisis pregnancy centers, which I assume are serious and are terrible. The threats
I've
that
got a
people
limited
who
amount of
work on
time.
abortion
I'm not letting you
access
reclaim
take
my
every
time.
single day.
I'm assuming
and
that you're
part of
for
it is
infanticide.
because of this sort
I would
of
also say that
inflammatory
her
and outrageous
language that
language.
health-
It is
Madam
not
Chair,
okay.
that the Supreme Court got it right. I hope each state will ban abortions, infanticide, which the three of you are in agreement with. And
I
think it's
object
a-
to that. I
think
am
it's
not
a-
in agreement with
And I
infanticide.
object
I
to the
want
fact that you didn't
I am
answer.
sorry,
None of
this
you
is
answered the question.
dangerous.
the gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Speaker, my amendment would prohibit funding from being used to carry out the actions described in Biden's October 31st fact sheet regarding cracking down on so-called junk fees that we've heard a lot of tonight. Specifically, this amendment would prevent funding from being used to implement the Department of Labor's controversial effort to crack down on so-called junk fees in retirement investing that could easily result and will result in higher fees and fewer investment options for hardworking Americans. Since the beginning of the Biden administration's whole of government crusade against so-called junk fees, it has been clear that the president and his officials are just targeting fees and practices that go against their own objectives, preferences. The administration can't even define what a junk fee is. Maybe my good friend on the left could define what a junk fee is. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from South Carolina reserves the balance of his time. Does any member wish to claim time in opposition?
Mr. Chair, I claim time in opposition.
The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized
Thank
for
you.
5 minutes.
Thank you. The prior speaker talked about families trying to save for college. I understand that. It's tough these days to save for college, put your kids through, especially in this economy. Thwarted, I might add, but some of the prior amendments that we've seen here tonight. But why wouldn't we try to protect those folks, allowing them to save, and quite honestly, save them from junk fees? And I didn't really realize it. So many of my Republican colleagues support this effort, which would really leave retirees susceptible to people who would sell them a bill of goods. Pig in a poke. You pick your, whatever commentary you want to make, and then charge them for it, where, you deny people a real return on their investment, but you charge them a fee for doing that. That's a junk fee. You're paying for junk. Junk advice, junk assistance, and you bear the brunt of that providers. And I'm not saying it's all providers. There are probably lots of good folks, that there are financial consultants, advisors. But don't tell me there aren't a lot of bad actors in this area who are collecting from the most vulnerable. And not every person in retirement has all of the knowledge to do everything that they need to do to evaluate, investigate a financial planner to make them whole at the end of the day. Like I just mentioned before, this is an amendment that leaves retirement savers vulnerable to these junk fees. I oppose the amendment, and I reserve.
The gentlelady from Connecticut reserves the balance of her time. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I still didn't hear the definition of a junk fee. You've got a politician and bureaucrats in the Labor Department restricting what commissions brokers who are in a competitive business can charge to willing buyers. And again, you have government who is trying to restrict commissions on funds and annuities they can provide to savers. Currently, this compensation practice is disclosed to investors and enables brokers to charge less because of the additional compensation. The White House fact sheet does not dispute that fees may actually increase as a result of this rule. This proposal is misguided and risk creating confusion in the marketplace, unwarranted compliance expenses, and instability for retirement plan retirees and savers. Again, this is done voluntarily on who you deal with. It's a competitive business, and there again you have politicians who probably have never been in the workforce and bureaucrats trying to dictate what they are. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the experts who serve in the industry. They actually work in the industry. According to the American Council of Life Insurers, a fiduciary-only regulation would shut off access to important retirement tools and hurt the very people the regulation intends to help. The National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors is concerned this proposal will have the effect of substantially reducing consumer access to investment and to create a substantial advice gap for potentially millions of individuals who need professional guidance to understand and make investment decisions, their own decisions, without government interference on their retirement accounts. I urge the passage of my amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from South Carolina reserves the balance of his time. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Still in opposition to this amendment, let me tell you this tale here. Grant and Dorothy were a retired couple who were both in their 70s when they turned their retirement funds over to their broker. The broker decided it would be appropriate to employ a complex strategy that was geared towards generating growth while hedging against catastrophic bear market losses. Unfortunately, with the strategy, in just 7 months, the broker lost almost 20% of their $150,000 in retirement funds. During the same time period, the broker earned $15,000. That's a junk fee. A bad investment advice that denies savers good returns on their investments is in form of a junk fee. And I oppose the amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady from Connecticut yields back the balance of her time. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized.
I'll close with the fact that my good friend from the left points out one example. What about the millions of people that are profitable, that choose to get into the stock market, that choose to their broker, that choose to pay the so-called junk fees that politicians shouldn't get involved with, nor should the government get involved with it? Urge passage of my amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from South Carolina yields back the balance of his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from South Carolina. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.
Mr. Speaker, the deadliest terrorist attacks of October 7th made one thing abundantly clear. The United States cannot continue to allow the Iranian regime access to funding that in turn could be used against our allies and even American citizens. I'm pleased to offer this amendment today, and I hope it will receive bipartisan support, because a very, very similar amendment, Mr. Speaker, received a voice vote in 2016, right along these lines. So as I was saying, last month's barbaric attack against our friends and allies in Israel was a powerful reminder of the dangers posed by Hamas and others.